I've got some memory of middle school. I've got a handful of memories from elementary school, and there's virtually nothing before kindergarten. But some things stand out. And one of those things is I've pretty much always had a runny nose. You may have observed that about me. I'm blowing my nose, wiping my nose kind of often. I've always got a stack of folded tissues in my pocket. And when I was in third grade, I remember my dad making a comment that maybe my nose ran so much because I was always wiping it. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but kind of the idea of, like, if you use lip balm all the time, you feel like you need it more than if you hardly ever use it. I don't know if there's any medical backing to that, but do you follow that line of thought? Okay, so my dad said this, and because he suggested that, I was going to try to wipe my nose less. And I was in the third grade. We were working on an assignment in class. I think I was drawing something. My teacher was helping another student at my table, and I felt like I probably ought to wipe my nose. I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to ignore it and see if it goes away. And then this little drip landed on my drawing. And my teacher happened to look up at that point and see it. And very indignantly, she said, "What are you, stupid? You don't even know when to wipe your nose?" I don't remember many things from elementary school, but I remember that. And I never really liked that teacher much after that. Of course, I've been on the other end of that spectrum too. One time shortly after college, I was searching for the words to tell someone how important they were. Okay? So I wasn't very good at communicating at that point, and I was searching for the words. And what came out of my mouth was, "You're huge." And the momentary look of horror on their face, I immediately realized what I had said and tried to backtrack and explain what I was thinking and everything. And it turned into a laugh about my lack of communication. But it still gave that initial hurt of something I didn't even intend to say. Other times, I've said mean things on purpose. Maybe to be funny, or maybe just to be mean. Sometimes to a person, sometimes about a person. How many people here can identify with all of that? Maybe not the runny nose part, but all the rest of it. It looks like we've all experienced the pain of words in our lives, from both ends of that spectrum. So, now, on a different topic, have you ever had life spoken to you? I believe in you. You can do it. You're going to do well in this. Well done. Maybe it was spoken through a teacher, maybe a parent, a coach, a pastor, a friend. Maybe it was directly from the Bible or from the Holy Spirit saying, "I love you." So, how many of us have received life or encouragement or hope through words? All of us. So, tonight we're going to talk about the power of words, the power of the tongue. We're continuing our series in Proverbs, and I'm sorry it doesn't have anything to do with dogs, but this was just a fun tongue picture to use tonight. So we're in the book of Proverbs, and Proverbs is a random collection of God-inspired wise sayings. And they're just as applicable today as they were 3,000 years ago when they were written, which is pretty amazing. And tonight we're going to learn from Proverbs 18:21. Proverbs 18:21. And welcome to look that up. I do have it on screen tonight. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. We've all experienced death and life from words. And what generally sticks out, of course, is the receiving end of that, right? That's what we remember and latch on to, whether that's good or bad. But the purpose of this proverb isn't just to point out the truth of the receiving end of that. Yep, I've experienced that death in life. That wouldn't really do us much good, just to point that out. But like pretty much all the Proverbs, it begs us to reflect. It challenges us to put ourselves in the proverb. When we first read a proverb from the Bible, we should ask ourselves, is this proverb talking about me? So our theme verse tonight, tongue is referring to using our words. So if you use words, this proverb directly applies to you and to me. So that's all of us. This proverb invites the question, am I speaking death or life? Not just on the receiving end, but am I speaking death or life? Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. Now, let's take a closer look, and I want to focus in on the idea of power here, the power of the tongue. And when I think of the word power, my first thought is strength, like brute force. And that could work with this proverb in the sense of words can be very forceful, they can hit us hard. Again, that's approaching it from the receiving end of the proverb. So I did a little research on the wording, discovered that the word for power used in this proverb is actually the Hebrew word for hand. In Proverbs 18:21, power is the Hebrew word hand, a yad, which means hand. So death and life are in the hand of the tongue. If you're a very literal person, that might conjure up some weird images for you, which is probably why it wasn't translated as hand, but power. The Old Testament uses that phrase, the hand of, in other places too, like asking God to deliver us from the hand of the enemy. But the word hand makes me think of power in a different sense. My hand is not the most powerful part of my body. Not even close. There's other parts of my body that are way stronger than my hand. But the real power in my hand is that it's very dexterous. I can use it very precisely. I have good control over my hands. I could use it to steer a ship. I could use it to turn a horse that's bridled. I could wield a sword with it. I could build a house with it. I could hold a baby with it. So rather than this idea of strength or brute force, the power of the hand is control. It's direction, precision. So if I say death and life are in the control of the tongue, to me that really helps put it in the perspective of the application end of this proverb. I can use my tongue precisely. I can control my tongue, and when I do that, that can either deliver death or life. And I can talk about people in a way that leaves others with a lower impression of them. That's called gossip. That's bringing death. It's so easy to participate in. Or I can use my words to build others up. One of my college roommates was Jeff Brake. And Jeff had this amazing ability to use compliments in a playful way. He would say a compliment in such an over-the-top way that would get everybody around him to kind of chuckle at it, yet it left the recipient feeling special at the same time. And this just amazed me because so many other people would use an insult or a put-down to get a laugh at the expense of someone. But Jeff would get a laugh while building someone up. Kind of like Buddy the Elf when he goes to visit his dad in the office. There's just a quick clip about that.
Well, good morning, Mr. Hobbs.
Sarah. Good morning, Sarah. It's a nice purple dress. Very purpley.
Francisco, Mr. Hobbs.
Francisco, that's fun to say. Francisco.
Hi. Do you remember me?
I do. I didn't recognize
I
you.
know, I'm in work clothes.
Thank you, Deborah. Actually, Deb, you have such a pretty face. You should be on a Christmas card.
You just made my day.
So just kind of over the top in a playful way, but it makes people feel good. And that's what my college roommate used to do. So am I speaking death or life? Am I speaking death or life? So that covers the first line of this proverb, which a lot of people would stop at. But let's not neglect the second half of that proverb. So we'll read it again. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. Which fruit is it talking about? The death or the life? Are we talking poison or edible fruit? Yes. It depends on which fruit you love. Let's look at Matthew 12, verses 33 through 35. Matthew 12, verses 33 through 35. It says, either make a tree good and its fruit good, or make a tree bad and its fruit bad. For the tree is known by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you are evil? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. The good person out of its good treasure brings forth good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure brings forth evil. So, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Which fruit do I love? Well, what do I love to think about when I think about others? Do my thoughts of others dwell on how annoying and selfish and immature they are? Or how encouraging and kind and generous and helpful they are? Do I expect to catch people doing something wrong? Or do I try to catch them doing good? What my thoughts and emotions tend to latch onto about people is probably what's going to come out of my mouth about them. So whether I've been speaking death or life tells me where my heart's been. Whether I've been speaking death or life tells me where my heart's been. So which fruit am I choosing? I'll show you a picture of something. Can anybody tell me what berry this is? Any guesses? It's a bluish purple berry that grows on a vine pretty much everywhere around here.
Grapes.
Wild grape?
No.
Good guess, but no. This is called a Virginia creeper. I don't know why it's called Virginia creeper. Like creeper because of a vine, not as like someone stalking you. And Virginia, I don't know why it grows in Michigan, but it does. But it looks remarkably like a wild grape, which also has a bluish purple fruit that grows on the vine pretty much everywhere around here. And wild grapes are actually pretty good if you like sour, tart things. Wild grapes are good to eat. So imagine if these two vines are growing in the same place, like in the field behind our house. So the Virginia creeper tends to change color with its leaves just a little bit sooner than the grapevines do. So most of this red is Virginia creeper, and most of the yellow is wild grape. So if you're rummaging through here looking for some wild grapes to snack on, or you want to make some jam or something, you see, oh, here's a grape leaf, and then there's a purple berry next to it. Well, if they're growing right next to each other, you've got to make sure that it's the right berry. They could be the wrong berry next to it. So you want to make sure it looks like the cluster of grapes and that it doesn't have the red stem that the Virginia creeper does. You have to be pretty careful and intentional about choosing the edible fruit, because if you don't think about it, it'd be really easy to pick the wrong one. And the same goes for the fruit of our words. We have a spiritual enemy and a culture that makes it so easy and inviting for us to focus on negativity. So we have to be intentional about using our words to build others up and giving life. So how do we apply this? Simply using a better filter for our mouth is not the solution. A mouth filter is when we actually take a moment to edit our thoughts before they roll off our tongue. And that can be certainly helpful, and that might go along with the solution. But since Jesus points out it's really a heart issue, trying harder with what comes out of our mouth really isn't going to fix the problem. It's not going to correct the source. So the root issue is really what we think about people. So that's what we need to work on. And if our natural response is, well, I can't help what I think, I just think it, and I can't do anything about that. Well, that's exactly what Satan, our spiritual enemy, would want us to believe, because then we won't put in the hard work of changing our thoughts. Pretty much the whole Bible is about getting us to change our thoughts. You ever think about that? That's why we have the Bible. Instructions and positive examples and negative examples to learn from, so that we'll choose God's way instead of my selfish way. So yes, we can change our thoughts. 2 Corinthians 10:5 tells us to take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. If a thought pops into my head that doesn't line up with what I know God's telling me, I should reject that thought. And we have the ability and the power to do that. So what do we do? I'm going to give you 4 practical steps to use our tongue for life. They'll be real quick. 4 practical steps to use our tongue for life. The first one is ask for God's help. Ask for God's help. Instead of making it a last resort, make prayer our first go-to when we want to accomplish something. Tell God that confess that we've caught ourselves speaking negativity, speaking death, or maybe even just failing to speak life, and ask Him to help change our heart. Number 2, filter what comes in. Filter what comes in. If people like to gossip to you, or if your friends like to do insult jokes, put down jokes, that kind of edge toward meanness, tell them you don't want to participate in that anymore. You can be kind about saying that, but be bold and stand for it. Take a stand. Or if you're always watching videos that feed your negativity, choose not to watch those anymore. We can have the greatest intentions about growing good fruit, but if we keep fertilizing the poisonous berries, that's what we're going to get the most of. So number 3, look for positives in people. Look for positives in people. Pay attention. Search for it. Probably most of us aren't wired to automatically point that out. So we need to search for it, especially in people who may annoy you. Like, look for elements of good so that you can be a positive influence on them and not a negative influence. Catch people doing good, making the right choice, or saying the right thing. And number 4 is speak life. Speak life. Thinking something nice is the first step, but if it doesn't come out of our mouth, it doesn't bless anybody. I get caught in this step sometimes. There are times when I thought, thank you, or I thought, this was good, or I thought, wow, you're so good at that. But it didn't actually come out of my mouth. And so we need to, on purpose, use our words to build others up. Hey, I noticed what you did there, and thank you for doing that. That was really cool. Or, hey, you're a really good communicator one-on-one. I just wanted to compliment you on that. Or, hey, thanks for picking that up. I really appreciated that. I need to say that to a roommate or something. We can compliment them. Even something simple, like, I like your shoes, or, wow, you really look nice today. While we're working on that heart adjustment, it might be useful to apply a better mouth filter. And it's okay and wise to speak the way we want to be, even if you're not quite there yet. It's not dishonest, that's working on it. Saying the right thing will help you think the right thing if you're working on it. But just having the mouth filter, saying the right thing, if you're not trying to change your heart, isn't going to do any good. It's not going to change what we love and what we dwell on. So imagine the impact this could have on your life. Wherever you're at now, what if you start speaking more life into others? Or what if you chose to never speak negativity? How would that affect every one of your relationships? How would it affect this community of His house? If people see His house as a group that speaks life into people, how many doors will that open to point people towards Jesus and point people to the gospel? And a few people are naturals at this, and it's absolutely amazing that they speak positive all the time, and that's amazing. The rest of us need to work at it, myself included. But I know you can do this. I believe in you. I have confidence that you can do this. If we keep applying these 4 steps over and over, they'll eventually stick. And we'll begin to love the fruit of that positive, life-giving words. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Let me pray.